to holistic solutions. Marie-Hélène, please take it away.
Thanks, Erica. Good morning, everybody. So I'm an independent DSG advisor, and in my practice advising my client, I leverage 20 years of operational experience working on the ground in the area of water and tailings management and environmental management as well. So when Erica came up and asked us the question, well, what is the one thing that company needs to do to get to 2030? First thought that came to mind was we need to push the boundaries in our approach to water and tailings management, because it's what I do, it's my technical know-how. But then as I was putting my ideas together for today's presentation, I realized that it all revolved around leveraging the internal knowledge that you have within your organization in order to develop holistic solutions. And it didn't really matter that I was applying this to water and tailings management. I feel it can be applied across the board for addressing any challenge or any improvement. So what I mean by holistic is an approach that will integrate the inputs and the needs of all those that are concerned by the issue. And what I mean by leverage internal knowledge is that often the people who are responsible to develop a certain solution, they either have an incomplete understanding of the problem definition, they may not be aware that the internal knowledge exists to solve that issue, or if they do, they don't have the tools to extract it. And this is where my value proposition comes in. It is to guide those people towards accessing that knowledge and developing those holistic solutions. Now, how does that relate to water and tailings management?
I'm so sorry to interrupt, Marie-Hélène, but we're still looking at your first slide. I'm not sure if you've been advancing them.
I have not. Thank you.
No problem.
Right. So water and tailings management are issues that prevail across the entire organization nowadays. I think the word comes up in almost every department, like board meetings, in permitting meetings, in investor relations, climate change, public safety. What's our communication strategy around that? It's really no longer just a technical issue that can be addressed only by the engineers in their corner with their technology. And even more so now that we're mining a water stress zone, dam safety is a global concern, and climate change is on everybody's lips. So don't worry, we're not going to talk about watershed assessment and dam stability. I'd be happy to talk about that in another venue at another time. Today, what I want to talk about, is the approach that I use to solve these issues, to address those topics, and how D&I comes in to those approach that I implement. So an industry faces many challenges, but one of them is that there's increased pressure to reduce our impact while meeting the demand for critical minerals and others, and can continue to be profitable. So that's quite a task, and that calls for innovation. In simple terms, I'll define innovation for the purpose of today's talk as that pressure being applied. It triggers a need for change. And why? In order to create value. And there may be different definition of value. And the pressures may be internal or external. It might be something you've set yourself or that's imposed by external stakeholder. The part I want to focus on today is the middle. It's the change. How do we generate that change? We need ideas. We probably need some new technologies, and we need collaboration. We need people to put their heads together and work in order to generate and implement that change. So who does that? It's your people. So we've often heard the expression, people work in silos in mining and probably in other industries as well. So there's an issue at hand, the technical team go and develop engineering solution. The ESG and comms team are developing programs and strategies. The operators are keeping the mill running. They likely have ideas, but maybe no voice. So we've got this blinder effect happening. But each of these silos is an individual dot of a wealth of information. The key is, how are we going to create those connections so that the information is transformed into knowledge? Because knowledge is power, and that is what is going to take you to those holistic solutions. Now they said, let's break down the silos. Some companies took that very literally, rearranged their office, no more cubicles, open workspace, no doors. What did people do? Their headphones on, put some plants, dividers. It's just human nature to put those things back on. So the context wasn't right for those connections to happen. And then came virtual work and remote working, which made those connections even more challenging. So what is missing? Audrey said it beautifully in her first presentation this morning. It's that psychological safety. It's that safe space, bringing people together so they can unleash that potential and creating those right environment, those right mindset. And people need some guidance before we get to the point where we're all feeling safe to contribute and share our ideas. So a couple months ago, I gave a workshop for a client. They wanted to generate new ideas. It was about water management. So of course, the initial thought was, okay, well, we'll get this scientist consultant and the engineer in the room, and they're going to give us some pumps and pipes and ponds, and we're going to design our way out of this issue. But it was so much broader. It stretched across all areas of the business. So then what we agreed upon with the client was that we needed a diverse group to participate in this workshop. All these little dots of information, we needed them in the room. So we had people from different management level, all areas across the business, some that were local to the project, some that came from corporate, international consultant. We even brought some academics into the group. So we brought all these dots together. Then came the challenge. How do you create the connections? And that comes back to, again, the principle of psychological safety. And that can be achieved in many ways. And that's really how I try to implement that concept of creating that safe space, making those connections, specifically kind of one workshop at a time, addressing one issue, and bit by bit growing that culture in a very applied way. Making the link with the language in Catherine's presentation earlier, we had a bilingual audience. We made sure we had translator with on demand translation. We had bilingual people in each of the subgroups because we wanted that inclusivity. We didn't want people to feel excluded just because they didn't understand or couldn't communicate. So we made sure there was time and space to check in, make sure that people were engaged. People had that sense of belonging. Nobody was wondering, why am I here today? I don't care. I don't understand. It has nothing to do with my job. I've got 50 emails piling up. People were there. They had a vested interest in the outcome. And I think there's tremendous value in creating that right setting so that the knowledge is formed, connection are made, and that potential is unleashed, and you get those ideas, those solutions. So at the end of the workshop, I separated the group in three, and each was tasked to present it to the larger group, how to develop their strategy and what their process was. The first group, mostly engineers, gave us this beautiful Gantt chart. It's linear, it's clean, milestone. We're used to seeing that in project management. Second group, maybe had some more artistic people, gave us a little bit of color, but that same linear thinking, milestone sequencing. Third group, which I will admit had a more diverse makeup, gave us something that looked like this. And I loved it. It was dynamic. There was interaction. There was back and forth with the arrows pointing both ways. It wasn't a linear process. There was collaboration going on. And I believe that's the process to get to those holistic solutions. Some of the feedback of the participants was that now they understood the issue better. They knew how they could contribute to the solution and why it was important for them to participate. The communication manager came back and said, it's important. I need the current and the accurate information to craft the right messaging externally. And now I know where to get that information. I've met the technical people that will feed me that. And the technical lead said, I had not realized how complex the permitting process was and how it can affect my strategy. And the project manager said, we're going to need more people because this is more complex than I thought. Now, why do you need a facilitator to guide you through this? Well, like it or not, you have an unconscious bias. You've got preconceived idea of what the solution would look like, And you've got some limiting belief. You're just too deep into trenches to see all that potential information that can improve your strategy. So you bring in a guide that will help you reach that summit, challenge your status quo, bring a new perspective, who's more interested in the process than the outcome, and knows how to create that safe space to foster engagement, connection, and knowledge. So you move from these individual solutions to these integrated solutions. The problem is defined as a group, the solution is defined as a group, you get buy-in. It's a process that is more efficient, more effective. There's no going back to the drawing board once you present it because you forgot something, because everybody's been there all along. It's dynamic, it's engagement, and it's going to be easier to get through your internal and your external line of approval. There was a survey by Deloitte a few years back now, but I'm pretty sure it's still current, that organizations with inclusive cultures are 6 times more likely to be innovative, agile, and anticipate change. And that's exactly what we're looking for here. So the value in diversity goes way beyond just reaching your quotas, certain percent in X, Y, Z, but it's what you do with it. It's how you unlock that power, how you create that knowledge. And you do that by creating an authentically inclusive space. And this is what I aim to do, one workshop at a time. So I invite you to recognize and cultivate the diversity you already have within your organization while you continue doing work to increase that diversity within your workforce. And that will help you get ahead of the curve in reaching your 2030 targets and even beyond. And I'll be there to guide your people along the way. So let's connect. Here's my contact information, and we can discuss your specific needs. Thanks everyone for your attention.